Hi folks, you're with Tacitus Today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this radio audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the numerous, I think numerous is an understatement, the colossal number of social media videos posted by Indians, particularly Indian women, complaining about how they're supposedly a victim of racism, and they particularly like to select the UK or Britain for this. They're primarily Brahmin girls from very wealthy families who travel all over the world at the parents' expense. The parents have monopoly businesses that are in a certain district or region where, if you want to buy certain goods, then you can only buy it from this place. So they're very rich, and they've got that Brahmin thing where they've got a house with 30, 40 servants, and country houses and houses in the mountains and various properties overseas and so on. And so here's a woman in her early 30s. She's just one example I got here, immaculately dressed with designer label clothes, obviously quite sophisticated in terms of if you like, cultural sophistication and that very Brahmin sort of Socratic type thing they attempt to project. But here's someone who's lived a life of plenty. Brahmin. You need to understand the Brahmins in India are the upper caste, and their superiority in social and spiritual and cultural matters is it's unchallenged. They can just walk into any house anywhere of a lower caste. They can just decide to walk in and give orders and do this, do that, and so they're there at the apex of that social caste system in India. So they have a real struggle dealing with areas of the world that are much less class-driven or caste-driven or what you like. So when they come to a place like the UK, where the Brahmins can speak English, then they expect or struggle to understand why they're not respected and why the working classes or the lesser mortals, which is almost all the British, don't attempt to ingratiate themselves. And when you see a lower caste Indian interacting with an upper caste Indian, they grovel and ingratiate themselves. The working class, they do everything except roll around in the dirt to try and act in a manner of supplication and so on. And the Brahmin Indians can't sort of really seem to move too far from that. So when they call out those racist white people, what they're really saying is these white people aren't giving me, the Brahmin, the superior. I'm spiritually, culturally, and superior in every way to these English people, yet they don't treat me with the deference and respect that I should be treated. And so I don't understand why, so I'm just going to call it racism. And then this woman talks about, well, has she actually experienced any direct racism? Well, no, she actually hasn't. No one said anything or said it. And she acts that they haven't said it to my face, but they must be saying it behind my back. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, your imagination can really fill in all the gaps there. If people aren't saying racist things to my face, then they must be. And it's a bit like there's always Nazis around the corner or white supremacists under the bed. And it's that same sort of rationale. Now, she claims that that when she shouldn't have to wait in a queue for anything. She's the upper class, so she should be able to go to the front of the queue, as in India she can, being the Brahmin. But in the UK, she has to stand in a queue, and she doesn't like this. It's something of an imposition on her social authority and entitlements and so on. But she'll do it under sufferance. She'll do it because she's in another country. Now, when she decides she's had enough time waiting in a queue and wants service, she really expects the shopkeeper or the person serving the shop, who's again an inferior caste. They're inferior people, these ones. So who are they to question her or tell her that she has to wait? Or that's simply not right. So the reason they're telling her to wait or is it must be because of racism. That's the only thing it can be. It can't be anything else. Now, she begins the videos that she does with the view that, or the position and the prejudice, claiming other people are prejudiced to her. She begins in the position, well, they're all being racist towards me. So that's the beginning point. So she goes out to look for examples of it rather than to say, well, is there any racism? Now, she admits she's had no racism to face, but she doesn't get service that she thinks she should. Again, entitlement of an upper class individual who's never had a job, never had to work, never had to worry about money, who's always been able to get the top of the range designer label clothes. You're not a mere mortal, you're a demigod at this point, and that's how these people see themselves. And who has the right to question a demigod or tell them to wait in the queue? Well, no one has that right. So it must be racism that's causing it. So she talks about that she hasn't been, there's no racism to her face, but if there must be behind her back, she's not given proper service. And again, then she gave an idiotic example of she goes to a small rural village. She's traveling along with her Indian friends. They arrive in this large group of Indian people, all talking Indian, and they arrive in a small shop in the middle of nowhere, and the shopkeeper isn't sufficiently polite or ingratiating, or doesn't engage in some act of supplication. Now, to her, that's not the fact that this is a small village and they hardly ever see a brown person or a black person, and that a whole bunch of you arrive chattering away in another language, being very smug and superior. So and the woman serving in the shop is a little a little withdrawn, and so, well, that's got to be because of racism too. So there's another example of this undertone of racism that's always there from these evil white people. And so those are sort of examples that she gives, and to her they must be racist. There just can't be anything else. Then she cites one where she was in a village somewhere where the white people are very familiar with each other. Now, bear in mind, it's a small village in rural England. These people have probably known each other since they were born. And of course they're familiar. They've known each other forever. So in come this big bunch of brown people, very haughty, very very condescending. And well, they were talking with great familiarity amongst themselves. But when we came in, they didn't treat us with the same familiarity. Now, again, to her in India, the peasants will treat her with much ingratiation and supplication, which isn't the same as familiarity, but she perceives the two are more or less the same. And because this peasant in rural England doesn't treat her with that same sort of supplication, then, well, what else can it be other than racism? So really, when you look at particularly upper class Indians, and the Brahmins as a classic of that, what they understand or what they perceive as racism is simply lack of the respect or supplication that they think they are due because of their class and their superiority. Now, I've encountered this, I first started, Brahmins were the first sort of tranche of Indians to arrive when the mass migration thing, the very beginning of the mass migration, it was the Brahmins who arrived with huge sense of entitlement. And bear in mind that they've never worked in their lives. All their degrees have been got through bribery and corruption. I'm sure there are some that have earned it, but not the ones that I've come across. And they have an entitlement to job and status and prestige, social position, all this sort of thing that they're used to and they think is their birthright to have. Now, they view anything other than the very richest Australians as inferior to them. And inferior people have no right to question them or make them accountable or tell them what to do or anything like that. So when these people started arriving, I've mentioned this in other videos, started arriving, they had, triple PhDs in computer programming and so on. And so they didn't want any more money than just an ordinary programmer would get in Australia. So I was pressured a little bit by the board of directors to start hiring people, and all these geniuses, and we can hire them for ordinary money. If you wanted to hire a PhD computer program in Australia, you had to pay quite a lot. But these Brahmins coming from India, you didn't have to pay them that much. Anyway, so I hired them, and the weeks would go by and they wouldn't do anything. They'd posture and claim that this and obfuscate and bluster and all sorts of stuff. And it got to the point after he said, no, listen, I want to know what you've done. Then it would switch to they would try and use their social state. Well, look, I'm just too high up the social. You can't tell me what to do, Billy Bob. You're a lower social status. You can't question me. You can't make me accountable. You can't say that I have to do anything. I'm a higher social status, and I've got this job through prestige, and I can report back to my family and in India that I've got an important white collar job in a white folks company, and I'm making sure that they give me due respect. That's it's all a social status bullshit thing. So I had to say, no, look, Ram, you're being paid to do a job, and it's expected that you do. It's nothing to do with your social status, whether you're a fucking Brahmin or not. You're expected to do the job. You're paid to do it. That's it. And then there'd be the outrage and indignation, and you have no right to go. So, and you say, no, you have to cut a line of code in front of me now while I'm watching. So you have to do that. This is not you have to do it. Otherwise, we're going to have to go our own separate ways. Yeah. And again, bluster, outrage, indignation. No, Ram, you have to do it. Now, if you don't do it or refuse to do it, then we're going to go our own separate ways anyway. So, and then the guy would then, at the last minute, he realised there was no more bullshit he could put it. He'd then fess up at the last minute, or actually, I don't know this program, I can't cut a line of code in any computer program. So I'm going to, hey, but look, I'm a socially important and significant person. So why don't you just let it all go and we'll still be friends with me? No. Buddy, you got to go. Okay, you finished it. So this was at the time, I don't think there was an Indian, maybe one or two Sikhs, but I don't think there was any Indians that the company hired or that I hired that we didn't end up firing because of this. So the Brahmin mindset is comes with huge entitlement. And look, just consider it. You've lived in a society where you've had endless servants to do everything, and they're the lower caste. They grovel and crawl to you all the time. You can talk to them however you want, and they'll apologise to you and this sort of thing. And so they're treat them how you wish and with the contempt and condescension that you want to. They're just they're the lowest of the low, and you're the highest of the high. And you've never had to work. You've gone to good schools. You've gone to prestigious universities. Your parents have bribed the university to give you a prestigious degree. Then you just travel the world. They give you a job in a family company that sounds very prestigious, executive vice president of such and such. But you don't do any work. There are flunkies to do the work. You just sort of walk around looking important and so on. So these are the sort of this is the sort of lifestyle you've had. And then you want to bring your greatness to a white country, and then you're bewildered as to why they don't treat you with, this huge respect and deference that you're used to. So the Brahmins confuse lack of respect for their socially superior position, and they say, well, if you don't give me the respect that I get in India, then you're all a bunch of fucking racists. And that's really what it amounts to. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.